Let me see it.
Sir, I needed to walk safely. I can't...
Could be a weapon, could be concealing something.
Why would you take that? Please give it back.
You're being evasive. Turn around, now.
Mercer grabbed Daniel's arm and wrenched it behind his back. Pain shot through Daniel's shoulder as he stumbled forward, unable to catch himself without his cane. His knee hit the sidewalk hard. "Stop resisting!" Mercer barked. "I'm not resisting," Daniel gasped, his face pressed against the cold concrete. "I can't even see you!" The metallic click of handcuffs echoed across the suddenly silent street. "Are you serious right now?" A woman's voice cut through the tension. "He's blind," someone else shouted. "Get this on camera," a teenager yelled, already live streaming. "Y'all seeing this? Cop just arrested a blind man for walking." Phones appeared from every direction. Multiple angles, multiple witnesses. The footage would be viral within hours. Daniel sat handcuffed on the sidewalk, his shoulders shaking. He couldn't see the crowd forming around him, but he could hear everything. The outrage, the disbelief, the clicking of phone cameras. And somewhere in the distance, his cane, his lifeline, sitting on the hood of Mercer's patrol car like confiscated evidence. 2 more officers arrived within minutes. Officer Ramirez, a 15-year veteran known for her calm professionalism, took one look at the scene and her expression hardened. Officer Cole, younger but sharp, immediately spotted the white cane. "Wayne, what's going on?" Ramirez asked, her voice tight. "Detained a suspicious individual, refused to comply." Ramirez's eyes moved from Mercer to Daniel to the cane. "That's a mobility aid. He's visually impaired." "Could be modified," Mercer insisted. "I was exercising reasonable caution." Cole picked up the cane, examining it for all of 3 seconds. "It's literally just a cane, Wayne. Standard hollow construction. What exactly were you being cautious about?" "His behavior was suspicious." "Walking is suspicious?" The crowd murmured agreement. More phones recorded. The live stream viewer count was climbing into the thousands. Ramirez knelt beside Daniel. "Sir, I'm removing these handcuffs. Can you tell me your name?" "Daniel Harris," he whispered. "Can someone please help me stand?" Cole immediately released the cuffs. "We've got you. I'm so sorry this happened." Ramirez placed the cane back in Daniel's hands with a gentleness that stood in stark contrast to how it had been taken. Daniel's fingers closed around it like a drowning man grabbing a lifeline. He tapped it once against the ground, reorienting himself, his breathing gradually slowing. Mercer stood back, watching his authority dissolve in real time as the crowd's anger swelled and his fellow officers openly contradicted his actions. The videos went viral that afternoon. 6 million views by evening, 15 million by the next morning. News outlets picked it up. Disability rights organizations issued statements. Civil rights lawyers offered pro bono representation. The footage was clear, damning, and impossible to spin. An officer seizing a blind man's cane, forcing him to the ground, and handcuffing him for the crime of existing while disabled. The city's mayor called for an immediate investigation. The police chief held a press conference expressing concern and promising accountability, though his words rang hollow to anyone who'd been paying attention to the department's pattern of protecting its own. Daniel filed a formal complaint, then hired an attorney. Sarah Chan, a civil rights lawyer with a reputation for taking on police misconduct cases, agreed to represent him immediately after watching the footage. "This isn't just about what happened to you," she told Daniel during their first meeting. "This is about a system that allowed it to happen in the first place."
Daniel Harris was doing exactly what he'd done every Tuesday morning for 3 years, walking to the bus stop with his white cane tapping rhythmically against the sidewalk, navigating the familiar route to his granddaughter's birthday party. He had the gift already wrapped in his jacket pocket, a small bracelet she'd been asking for since summer. At 52, Daniel had been blind for over 3 decades, losing his sight to a factory accident when he was barely old enough to vote. His cane wasn't just a tool, it was his independence, his navigation system, his connection to a world he could no longer see but had learned to map through sound and memory. Before we get started, where are you tuning in from? Drop your country or state in the comments. And hey, if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, now's the time, because what's about to happen next will leave you speechless, and you won't want to miss stories like this. Officer Wayne Mercer noticed him from his patrol car and made a split-second judgment that would eventually cost the city $2.5 million. What Mercer saw wasn't a disabled man heading to catch public transportation. What he saw, filtered through layers of unconscious bias and a career's worth of unchecked prejudice, was something suspicious. The slow pace, the methodical tapping, the way Daniel moved with careful deliberation. To Mercer, it registered as threat, not disability. He stepped out of his cruiser and called out sharply, "Hey, stop right there." Daniel turned toward the voice, confused. "Me?" "Yeah, you. What's that in your hand?" Daniel lifted his cane slightly, the universal white cane that signals visual impairment to anyone who knows what they're looking at. "It's my cane, officer. I'm blind." Mercer walked closer, his boots heavy on the concrete. "I didn't ask what you are, I asked what's in your hand." "It's a mobility cane," he repeated, his voice steady but edged with growing concern. He dealt with misunderstandings before, but something about this officer's tone felt different, harder, less interested in understanding. "Let me see it." "Sir, I needed to walk safely. I can't—" Mercer reached out and yanked the cane from Daniel's grip. The world immediately became chaos. Without his cane, Daniel lost his primary sense of spatial awareness. He reached out instinctively, grasping at air, his balance shifting as panic flooded his chest. The sounds around him, cars, footsteps, distant conversations, all blurred into an overwhelming wave with no anchor point. "Why would you take that?" Daniel's voice cracked. "Please, give it back." Mercer examined the cane with theatrical suspicion, turning it over as if he might discover contraband hidden inside the hollow plastic tube. Could be a weapon, could be concealing something. "Why are you out here? What are you doing in this area?" "I live 2 blocks from here," Daniel said, his hands trembling as they searched empty space for something to hold on to. "I'm going to see my granddaughter. Please, I need my cane." By now, other people on the street had stopped. A jogger slowed to a standstill, staring. A woman walking her daughter to school pulled out her phone. A man in a business suit paused mid-stride, his face shifting from curiosity to disbelief. "You're being evasive," Mercer announced, as if reading from a script he'd invented on the spot. "Turn around." "What? Why?" "Turn around, now." Daniel hesitated, disoriented and frightened. "I don't understand what's happening." The trial lasted 2 weeks. Journalists filled the courtroom. Activists organized rallies outside. The prosecution presented the bodycam footage, witness testimony, and expert analysis on police procedure and disability rights. A use-of-force expert testified that Mercer's actions violated every standard protocol. A psychologist explained the trauma of having one's mobility aid forcibly removed. Daniel took the stand on the 6th day. The courtroom fell silent as he was sworn in, his hand resting on the Bible, his other hand gripping his cane. For 40 minutes, he described in devastating detail the fear of having his cane ripped away, the helplessness of being forced to the ground without being able to see who was doing it or why, the humiliation of being treated like a criminal for walking to his granddaughter's birthday party. "I've been blind for 34 years, Daniel said quietly. "I've learned to navigate a world that wasn't built for me. I've learned to adapt, to memorize routes, to trust my cane and my training. But that morning, Officer Mercer didn't just take my cane, he took my dignity. He took my safety. He decided I was guilty of something before I even spoke. And when I tried to explain, when I tried to tell him I needed that cane, he treated my disability as defiance." His voice wavered slightly. I couldn't see his face, but I could hear everything in his voice. The contempt, the assumption that I was lying or trying to trick him, like my blindness was some kind of performance.
I've faced discrimination before, but never from someone whose job is supposed to be protecting people like me." The defense tried to argue that Mercer had acted within his discretion, that the situation had been ambiguous, that hindsight was 20/20. But the footage made their arguments collapse under their own weight. There was no ambiguity, just a disabled man trying to catch a bus. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. The verdict: $2.5 million awarded to Daniel Harris. The jury found the city liable for failing to properly train and supervise officers regarding disability awareness and for maintaining a culture that enabled discriminatory policing. Mercer sat motionless at the defense table, his career destroyed, his reputation permanently tied to an act of cruelty captured from multiple angles and shared millions of times. Daniel used the settlement to launch a nonprofit called Clear Path Forward, supporting disabled individuals facing discrimination. He funded mobility training programs for newly blind adults, provided legal resources for disability rights cases, and created educational materials for law enforcement agencies about interacting with disabled community members. He spoke at police academies, community forums, and disability rights conferences about the intersection of disability and police accountability. Within 2 years, his organization had helped 43 people file discrimination complaints, trained over 2,000 officers in disability awareness, and provided mobility equipment to 300 individuals who couldn't afford it. A year after the verdict, he received an anonymous letter from someone who'd filmed that morning. "I walked past people in wheelchairs, people with canes, people who moved differently than me, and I never really saw them. I never thought about what their lives were like. Because of you, I see things differently now. I volunteer at a blindness center twice a week. Thank you for standing up. Thank you for not staying silent." Daniel folded the letter carefully and slipped it into his pocket. He stepped outside his office, his cane tapping steadily against the sidewalk, confident, purposeful, free. He still couldn't see the world, but he'd helped the world see what it had been missing. He'd turned his worst day into a catalyst for change, his humiliation into advocacy, his pain into purpose. And sometimes that's exactly what justice looks like. Not just a verdict or a settlement, but the ripples that spread outward, changing how people see each other, how systems protect the vulnerable, how dignity gets defended one uncomfortable conversation at a time. Subscribe to our channel for more stories.